So bass, we have in here, these bass were feed trained as babies. There's a really small window when a bass swims up off the nest, they've switched to exogenous feeding, they get to around an inch long, give or take, and they get a bass trained on eating pellets. You got to bring them into the lab and start them off feeding something really high in oil like frozen krill, get them going on that, and then start mixing in fish pellets, and eventually you take away the krill and they're eating all pellets. But they have to be trained in a lab or in a confined system to be able to get this result out in the wild. But what we found is some of this food we're using now is, I don't know if it just tastes better or what, but we get some bass kind of training themselves as they go, and I've heard a lot of other guys having success with this. If you get a few fish that are feed trained, you start to get a few bass coming in and they'll go. And but probably the coolest thing is the smallmouth we've seen up north. We had no idea they'd do this. We put the feeders in for bluegill in that lake, and all of a sudden, one spring we hit the button and the smallmouth were boiling, and told us there wasn't a lot of food in the system. We got the food going, the smallmouth went away. Later that summer they came back. It was just that perfect food plot analogy. They kind of come in and go as they needed it, but they completely trained themselves. So by and large, if you want bass to be eating pellets on a consistent basis, you pretty much have to buy bass that are feed trained in a hatchery, get that out in the wild. And that's what these started off as, little guys, and we've got just a few feed trained bass in here and amongst all the other fish we've stocked.